Hello and welcome everyone, I am your host for this video, Random Gamer Riven. Now, we got a gameplay sample today of Yoshi's Cookie on the Super Nintendo. Just a reminder, Nintendo, since their rule changes, allow you to monetize their videos, but you do have to add your take on it, so I'm going to commentate over the top of it to respect Nintendo's wishes. And we're going to be looking today at Yoshi's Cookie on the Super Nintendo, and we're going to be looking at all three modes, that is the action, the verse and the puzzle. But while we wait, before we start, we're just going to look over the attract sequence here, and as you can see there's some nice Mode 7 effects with the way the Yoshi Cookie spins at this point, although this is about the only Mode 7 effect in the game, so it's kind of weird they use it on the title screen and not much else. Now, Yoshi's Cookie was released on the NES as well. I think this version was done after, although I haven't actually checked the release date, although annoyingly the NES version had Mario dressed as a cook, which was quite a nice little subtlety, and as you see here, Mario is just dressed in his normal clothes. So yes, it would have been nice if he was dressed in his cooking apparatus. Indeed, the other characters seem to be largely Super Mario World sprite rips, oddly enough. Some of the sprites do seem to be ripped from Super Mario World. So this is a bit of a change of pace from a few of the other games we've been doing lately, as this is a puzzle game. Yoshi's Cookie is largely and effectively, the aim of the game in all the modes is to basically match up the cookies in a pattern and then basically straight lines, or either horizontally or vertically, and that will clear the screen of them. So this is the basic action mode, so you can actually select your starting round. There's 10 rounds in total, and each round has separate stages. In action mode, basically it's a bit like your classic Tetris Endless. You have a score, and basically the aim of each round is to clear all the cookies off screen, and that will take you to the next round. Clear 10 rounds and you go to the next stage, and each stage also has a different background, although largely they do look like the backgrounds are taken from Super Mario World. It's very simplistic, but it is fairly addictive and fairly enjoyable, although I must admit I did find Nintendo's puzzle games during the 90s and even now a bit bare bones. Even things like Dr. Mario, I always found it needed a bit more content for my liking. Although that said, Yoshi Cookie does offer 3 modes. The one thing it doesn't offer is a sort of endless score mode, which I kind of thought it needed, seeing as how this does sort of try to follow a sort of Tetris style format, and it doesn't have a sort of endless score mode. You do have a high score in this stage mode, but eventually if you reach round 10, stage 10, then it ends. But I'm basically going to take you through each of the 3 modes in this video. So we're going to look at the action mode, then we're going to look at a couple of verse matches, which has rock hard CPU, I should warn you, and finally we'll look at the puzzle mode, where basically you have a select number of moves and you've got to clear them. Now, the Yoshi cookies you just saw there is a bonus cookie in the action mode. But the aim of the game is simply to clear the screen of cookies, and it's fairly straightforward. You have B in this mode speeds up the drop rate of the cookies. A allows you to select and move them up or down, so you can move them vertically or horizontally. You cannot move them diagonally, and basically you just got to be as fast as possible. If the screen fills up with cookies, it is game over. Now, it's quite a simplistic complex, but it's actually fairly enjoyable. I must admit, this is not one I've played that much, but when I did sit down and actually play it for once, I quite enjoyed it. It's Nintendo, as I said, their puzzle games are notorious for, I always felt Tetris was a bit lacking in content. I know people enjoy Tetris, but a lot of their puzzle games do largely seem to lack content. And this, arguably on the NES, I think did lack content. This version does have a bit more, but I still think it needed a little bit more. I always thought Nintendo liked to turn out their puzzle games without the depth of content it really needed. And I think there could have been a few more modes. There is a verse mode, and you do get to pick one of 4 characters, but it doesn't change that much. You get Mario, Peach, Bowser, and Yoshi. Although you don't get Luigi, and there's no Toad, and there's quite a few other characters. I think, well, maybe And the thing is that they're not dressed up. I mean, Nintendo clearly did this a bit on the cheap because they're not dressed up in like cooking uniforms. So Mario's not got his chef outfit, and Yoshi, well, Yoshi could have had an apron or something on. And even like Princess Peach, you could have had her as a waitress or something. And Bowser as well, maybe you could have had him as sort of some sort of surgeon or another waiter or something, just to sort of add in the sort of cooking elements, or maybe the head chef for a bit of a funny joke. But they don't. Nintendo kind of missed the mark a little bit in this. It does feel a bit like some of the aspects. Certainly when I get to the round 1 end of game intro, which you see in a few minutes, it literally looks like they have sprite ripped from Super Mario World, and that doesn't give actually a good impression. I'm sure there'll be some Nintendo fans saying how wonderfully perfect this game is, but it's a nice game, it's enjoyable, it's quite fun, it's quite addictive, but it's not a game that I feel is going to keep you held or entertained for. I think you get a day or two's play out of this, but after that I think you'd get bored pretty quickly. It's not the most in-depth puzzle game, certainly because there isn't an endless mode, so you are limited to how far you can go, although admittedly you could deliberately very carefully stage out stage so you get as high a score as possible, and that's one of the things I noticed. One of the times I took a while on the stage by clearing lines not particularly well, and basically you rack up more score that way, so that's one thing to keep an eye on. As you see, here's a little interplay intro. You get these every basically clear round, or basically 10 stages, and you get one of these nice little intros. They're quite nice, but that is clearly Mario Sprite from Super Mario World, so they could have just done a sprite hack. But there you got a nice little close-up image. And then we're on to the next round, and basically this is the same mode. The only difference in the action mode really is the starting setup. So I'm just going to let this play through now. We got to actually the 3rd round, so I'll play through the next round. So if you want this part from now, and I won't commentate on the rest of this, but once we get to the verse section, I'll add my commentary again back in. So that was the action mode, and you see we got to the third round. This is the verse mode, so you actually get to choose between man and com, although there's not really any difficulty settings, which is a big problem, as the AI is brutally hard. So you get one of choice of 4 characters there. We've got Mario, we've got Yoshi, we've got Peach, and we've got Bowser. And again, they literally look like they've sprite ripped some of them from Super Mario World. Nice little background art there, reminds me a bit of Kirby All-Stars with the sort of crowd in the background, which was nice to see. Although you don't get the background as the background, you just get a sort of checkered background. And here we go with what I can only be described as, if you don't have a friend, this is an excruciatingly difficult mode, because the AI is just absolutely flawless with all its moves. It gets some perfect multiple combos. Now, how the verse mode works, there's 2 ways. Basically, every time you get a combo, it adds to that red bar next to you. First person to fill up your red bar wins. However, you'll also notice there's a sort of bomb timer in the top left corner on my side, in the top right corner. If you fail to make a move, or basically you fail to clear a line, by the time that timer ticks out, you will lose. Basically, you must clear a line, else you automatically lose by default. So it doesn't give you enough time really to set up combos. As you can see in this round here, I lost because I failed to clear a line quick enough, which is really unfair, because you can't really set up combos that well. Often they require a lot of moves, and certainly if you're playing as Bowser, although he's the highest attack, gives you the least amount of time to set up moves. So setting up moves is actually quite time consuming because of how this small box is and because it's totally full. So you need to set up either a 5. You can also set up a 4 move if you know how the lines are going to break. But it's actually incredibly difficult to set up moves. Even if you're moving as fast as possible, the AI is blindingly fast. And there's no difficulty settings on the AI. It's really difficult. Plus, as you see here, it's just going random. The AI, if you get, I think it's the Yoshi Cookies, or if you get enough score, you will get a bonus attack on your opponent. Now, one of them is you will get that where all the blocks randomly move, so you can't do anything. Another one is 9 blocks in the centre will get a question mark over, so if you can't remember what they are, you can't see what they are. You have to move them around. And the last one that you won't be able to see when I'm doing it because you're watching a video, but if you're playing it, the AI can take control of your counter. So that's another weird one where you actually physically, you can't control anything. The AI is moving your counter in sync with its moves. But that one's difficult to see on the video. You can tell it, as you see there, the top now near my bomb score, there's a little icon that indicates what ability you're being affected by. But you can see there, Bowser is storming away. His AI just moves so quickly, it's just not even funny how quickly the AI gets score. So I'm literally looking as fast as I can, and I kind of sort of gave up against the AI because every time it just beated me without any reserve. It seemed to get really good combos as well, constantly. I think the bonus power-up is actually the Yoshi Cookie, because the Yoshi Cookie is actually used for different things in each game type. But basically, because you don't get that much time, it's really difficult to set up moves. But of course, you need the space to set up. Probably this mode's probably going to be better against against a friend, basically, rather than the CPU. The CPU is just brutally hard. So this game was Mario versus Bowser. I did a second game, which was Yoshi versus Peach, just to show you all the characters. They don't differ that much. This mode, I think, it's quite nice with a friend, but against the CPU, because there's no difficulty settings, the CPU just seems to be set to brutally hard, and yeah, it's not actually that much fun. So that was the verse mode, which, as I mentioned, was extremely difficult. This is the puzzle mode, which is probably the main meat and grind of the game. I know the action mode's a bit not ideal because it's not sort of endless, but this is a sort of puzzle mode, and this, I think, for me, is probably the best mode in the game. Basically, you are given a set puzzle, and as you see there, you have 0, 1, which is a number of moves, but then you've got to basically clear the screen of cookies with the required number of moves. Sounds simple at first, and admittedly the opening puzzles are all fairly easy, but once you start to progress, they do rapidly get a lot more difficult, and then you've really got to think about each move, because most of the time the number of moves you're given is the exact number of moves you need to clear the screen. This mode also has passwords, as you can see, and you can select them in the menu at the start by pushing to the round. You could select through all the various rounds and you can select the password as well. Basically, once you clear 10 rounds, so basically each stage, well, each round has 10 stages, and once you clear all 10 of them, you get a little intro of that question mark scene you saw at the start, and it will unveil one of the squares on it to reveal a picture. So, from a perspective point, this is fairly straightforward. Basically, the passwords allow you to carry on, and it's simply a case of moving the blocks into the right place to clear the screen. But they do get progressively harder, and it's quite easy to get stuck very quickly, because although you can think, oh hey, I only need a couple of moves, in theory it should be quite quick. A couple of them even I spent a little while on. Immediately, the first world, the first up to 9, up to 8 are really easy. 9 and 10 are by far the difficult ones. 9 here and 10 were the only two that really gave me any trouble when I did the first world. Strangely enough, or the first round. Strangely enough, the second round I didn't have any issues at all. So this one's actually it's not quite clear. Usually my golden rule is to try and find one of the blocks with 4 types and just aim to clear it. But it can actually be far more difficult than you initially think. So those stages are fairly straightforward, you see there, but 9 and 10 did give me some difficulty originally, but of course I practiced them prior to this, but as you can see here. So that's the first round clear, also 10 stages from the first round, so you see the little picture unveils, and here we go to round 2, and we have a slightly different background. The underwater stage, although I do think that might be borrowed. There's some of those underwater background sprites might be borrowed from Super Mario World. So, strangely enough, I did find round 2 easier than round 1. I actually cleared all 10 stages in round 2 without any difficulty. Unlike round 1, where 2 of the stages you give a bit of trouble. But again, you're looking for patterns, you're looking to line up as many blocks as possible. You're looking to basically find... My tips for doing this are basically look for the blocks with the most squares, or the ones that you think need lining up. So here you can see the checkered block is the one that needs lining up, and it's a case of getting the checkered block lined up, then the hearts and the donuts will go themselves. So this stage again, we're just going to line up all the hearts, and that will clear. We've got 2 moves. This first stage clears 1, and then second move, and then we clear then that will automatically. Basically, you clear lines by making sure that it's all one type of the same cookie. The only exception being in action mode, Yoshi Cookie functions slightly different in the various modes. In action mode, if a line ends with a Yoshi Cookie, it will clear it and give you a bonus. So in this one again, we're going to raise it to the sort of tarty cookie, so that we get the hearts, and then we've got the sort of green ones, the donuts, and the checkered ones. And so on to stage 6, and again, I think this one you're looking to match up the heart ones or the checkered ones. So again, I think I'm meant to match up the checkered ones first. It's one of those ones you initially think, which way do I go? Because it's not always clear. So yeah, up one, you can up match, and then of course also if you want to move above, they actually go back on themselves. So yeah, not exactly sure the correct term for it. Basically, if you have 4 blocks and you move one up, the top one will appear at the bottom row, which is something to keep in mind with some of the puzzles. So again, here you've got the tarty ones and the sort of heart ones, so we know, or the jammy dodgers, I think it's a word to describe. Basically raise it up, we want to match up the hearts, so then we've got the sort of jammy dodgers, and the checkerboard ones. Fairly straightforward. This mode I think is probably the most fun for me. This one's definitely the most fun. I think it's a nice little puzzle game. I mean, I don't think we paid a lot for this one when we picked up a copy. It's not the most in-depth game, I will admit, and I think this is the type of game I can see being a day, or like I said, day two's play, and then you'll probably get bored of it. I've always felt these type of puzzle games need a bit more meat and grind to them, and they just, for me, they don't feel that substantial. They needed a bit more. So I think this was by far the hardest of the stage puzzles here. I think I raised this one and then lowered the other one by 2 because we've got 3 moves here, so that one go. Basically, it's a case of clearing the line. Once you clear the line, they literally, it's basically like a row of dominoes. Treat it such. Once you clear one line, if you've got a full line of another type of cookie, they all go. They could have called this, the English version would be if you called it Yoshi's Biscuit, but cookie sounds better than biscuit, I have to admit. Oh yes, also if you press L and R you can actually revert your moves, which is quite handy, because although if you clear one it allows you to try it over, it's still annoying having to go through the try again screen. So this has been Yoshi's Cookie. I hope you enjoyed this brief look at what is an enjoyable, if short, puzzle game. Not the most in-depth game, but I think it's fun, like I said, for a day or two. And there's certainly, if you like brain teasers, you'll certainly like it. I know some people like puzzle games, some people won't. This definitely won't be everyone's cup of tea, that I will say. I'm just going to show you the last unveiling. So that gives me time to say thank you for watching, and as always, if you like this content, please hit that like button, and as always, if you like the channel, please hit the subscribe button.